The approach set out a few weeks ago in the revised strategic framework, and based on the Government's clinical advice, our assessment is that the virus at this stage continues to present a medium threat. However, we do remain optimistic that it will move to being a low threat during the course of this spring. We have, of course, already largely moved away from reliance on legally imposed protective measures and are now relying instead on vaccines, treatments and sensible public health behaviours and adaptations. Indeed, 9 days ago we lifted all bar one of the remaining COVID legal requirements. However, we did at that point retain in law the requirement to wear face coverings on public transport and in certain indoor settings. I said 2 weeks ago that we would review this requirement before the Easter recess, which we have now done. We have taken account of the very high level of infection and the pressure on the NHS, and also the fact that face coverings do provide an important layer of protection against transmission of the virus from one person to another. However, we are also mindful that the data may now be indicating a peaking of this wave of infection, which should hopefully become more pronounced over the next couple of weeks. We have therefore concluded, subject as always to the state of the pandemic, that the legal requirement to wear face coverings will be replaced with guidance on the following phased basis. From next Monday, 4th April, it will no longer be a legal requirement to wear a face covering in places of worship or while attending a marriage ceremony, a civil partnership registration or a funeral service or commemorative event. And then the wider legal requirements applying to shops, certain other indoor settings and public transport will be converted to guidance 2 weeks later on the 18th of April. We will, of course, continue to encourage the wearing of face coverings in certain indoor places, especially where significant numbers of people are present. This phased approach strikes, I think, a sensible balance between our desire to remove this one remaining legal measure and the common sense need for continued caution, not least for the sake of the NHS, while this wave of infection does subside. I recognise that face coverings are an inconvenience. However, given all the sacrifice of the past 2 years and in view of the current pressure on the NHS, I believe the vast majority of people will accept that for a further 2 weeks this is a proportionate precautionary measure while we pass the peak of this latest wave. It also, of course, provides some additional protection to those who are most at risk from the virus. Presiding Officer, in conclusion, I want to take this opportunity again today to thank the public for the patience and the responsibility that continues to be demonstrated by the overwhelming majority of people across the country. Life has returned to normal for most of us, but COVID hasn't gone away. Indeed, there will be very few of us in recent weeks who have been untouched by this virus, either ourselves or within our families or networks of colleagues. That in itself is a sign of how infectious the virus continues to be. So while the level of infection remains as high as it is, I would ask people to continue, please, to take sensible basic steps in order to protect yourselves and others.
Thank you. The First Minister will now take questions on the issues raised in her statement. I intend to allow around 20 minutes for questions, after which we'll move on to the next item of business. I'd be grateful if members who wish to ask a question were to press the request to speak buttons now. And I call on Douglas Ross.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Case rates here are now far higher than anywhere in the United Kingdom. The First Minister's strategy is clearly failing. And because of her failing strategy, she's keeping restrictions in place here in Scotland weeks after they've been removed elsewhere. Countries across the UK and Europe have already removed restrictions and are living with COVID. But today, the First Minister has signalled that face masks will continue for several more weeks. Now, we believe that anyone who wants to keep wearing a face mask should keep doing so, particularly if that will help vulnerable friends and relatives. But it should be down to individual choice, as it is in other parts of the United Kingdom. We should leave it up to people and businesses to decide what's best for them based on public health advice. Nicola Sturgeon has to start trusting the people of Scotland. This just isn't an inconvenience. It's really holding some people back. Retaining face masks in schools and businesses is damaging for young people's education and limiting Scotland's economy. So can I ask the First Minister? Her statement didn't mention schools. When face masks are lifted on the 18th of April, will that include removing them entirely from schools, not just classrooms? And now that we've heard the third date that face masks will no longer be mandated in law, The First Minister has previously said the legal restriction would be lifted on the 21st of March, then early April, and now the 18th of April. Will the First Minister guarantee that there will be no further delays?
I think most people, and I do think that the evidence, all of the evidence that I have seen on public opinion would suggest that Douglas Ross is just seriously out of step with the vast majority of people on this. People understand that face coverings, particularly in public places where people don't always have a choice about being, people have to go to shops, and therefore if we all wear face coverings in shops right now, we help to protect each other. For a couple of weeks more, while we see this wave of infection peak and start to fall, I think that is a sensible thing to do. And I think the vast majority of people agree with that. And while nobody wants to be doing that for longer than necessary, I think most people accept that it is a sensible precautionary measure to take. And lastly, on schools, we would expect the requirements in schools, the remaining requirements in schools, to lift in line with the requirement for the general population.